So that's better, I can see fine here. So when this presentation was done also with, I presented this in the IAND's annual convention at Arlington 2 weeks ago. But there was under extreme pressure for the time, and I was like this, I choked till I finally reached an end. So here is the old joke I did last year, and I hope you remember the answer. Now, what is the common denominator of the following words? What? Men? Okay, that's good. How about you, lady? Anybody else? Please read them out. Shall I read them out for you? I mean, just...
Etymology.
Etymology, bravo. Okay, you're close.
Things you feel or you're expressing. Feel
origins of Greek or
bravo, Elena. Like your name is Greek, those all words are Greek. So why I'm making this joke, and I repeat myself, is because if you read each of these words, and not only these words, you will realize how sophisticated these people were and how complex their ideas were at that time. So you can imagine that they had already run into ideas and all kinds of principles, but if you look through the symbols, you will realize how important this terminology is. Now, what is Greece at that time? Greece, now, today, Greece is this area here. It starts somewhere here in this river, and it goes right down here. That was the island I was for 10 years, Corfu. And this is the area of Greece, actually. Okay? Today. At that time, though, this was the mainland, and also this was the mainland, where now is Turkey, and also the Magna Graecia, which is the area of the, southern Italy and Sicily. Okay? And they also had Cyprus, some parts here in Lebanon, and Egypt. As you can see, many cities they had over there. So they were in commerce, and they were exchanging commodities and goods. And of course, with the goods go the ideas as well. So a lot of the ideas that were developing in the areas between the big rivers Tigris and Euphrates, which are in what we call today Middle East, Mesopotamia, the Assyrian civilization, the Babylonians, the Persians, and the Egyptians, all these people interacted with each other and they exchanged ideas. And they knew things would come out through the marriage of these ideas. But things were not as fast as today, you know, they didn't have the internet. So it took time. So there was time for pregnancy. Today we don't have time for pregnancy. We want immediately to get to you know, the job done. It cannot be done that way. You have to be pregnant with an idea and give birth to it. Otherwise, you don't proceed. So what is the most important lesson for us left from antiquity? Well, ancient Greeks were tuned in with their environment and nature, first of all. So some of them, not all of them, came to the following conclusions. The fact that we are all immortal. For them, there was no such thing as death. Death was only a transition. It was a transition to another state of mind. The psyche is that part of the soul that survives physical death. The psyche can connect with the divine through dreaming, incubation, and through initiation into the mysteries. Now, probably that is the most important thing we want to look into, the initiation into the mysteries. But you will understand in a while what I'm talking about. These people valued the transpersonal experiences a lot. And they had a lot of places for those experiences to be witnessed and lived through. So this pyramid is showing you actually the fact that there is a differentiation. The Delphi oracle, okay, this is probably well known to all of you. This was the most important center for clairvoyancy in antiquity. However, it's not as many people think that the Delphi oracle was giving readings to me to learn who my girlfriend is dating with. No, it was not that. It was only the states or the kings could ask questions at the Delphi oracle. I couldn't go there and see, okay, what is she doing with the other guy? That was not accepted. It was absolutely unacceptable. And the only time the Delphi oracle answered was twice a year. So leaders from Persia, from Egypt would send their missions with money to the, to live there at the Delphi oracle, and they would give out a question. And if the Pythoness was to give an answer, the priest would come out with an answer, which was always ambiguous, as you know, as all of the readings are actually. So, but there were cases that they were so specific. In one case, a Persian Croesus, a very rich guy, tried to play a joke on them and said, you have to guess what I will be doing this time. And they guessed precisely what they did, and he gave all his money to the oracles. So they were not only BS, they also said true things. Now, that was the Delphi oracle. There were two other oracles. There was the Dodoni one and the Didyma. The Didyma was in the area in Turkey now. It's majestic if you go there. And the other one is in Dodoni in Epirus. But the really well known is the Delphi oracle. Now,
Were the oracles, the ones that gave the message, were they women?
yes, the Pythoness, yes, they were women.
But it wasn't exactly like I thought it was going to be.
Of course, it has all fallen apart. Yeah, nothing stands there now. I mean, you can only feel the energy there now. Yeah. So now we have another level of transcendental experience, transpersonal experience. That was the incubation. That was the most important thing that took place in antiquity, according to my opinion, because incubation resembles hypnosis as we use it today. And simply because I'm a hypnotherapist, I think this is the best thing ever happened to humans, okay? Now, there were 330 Asclepia in antiquity. Asclepia are the temples of Asclepios. Asclepios is the god of medicine. Okay? So there were 330 temples where people could be going there and have a cure in the Asclepia. And in the Asclepia, they would follow a process of cleansing and catharsis, which would lead them eventually to coming with a dream overnight, that dream would give them a solution to their physical problem. So if they had, let's say, migraine, they wouldn't take Tylenol, because the solution given by the god was personal. So for Elena, it would be, you go down to the ocean and you dive in the cold water and stay there for 2 hours and you will be well. But for me, it would be, go among 2 women and that would be great. So, okay, so for each one, it was a different thing. So Those are the incubation techniques in the Asclepia. Then we have the oniromancies. Oniromancies were places where people would go there to dream, but not for healing purposes. They would not go there for healing. They would go there to get some information, like the lotto numbers. The lotto did not exist at the time. I'm joking. You didn't get the joke. So that's okay. That's okay. 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 So oniromancy. They had 12 oniromantiums in ancient Greece. Those 12 oniromantiums were spread out, and people would go there to have a dream that was meaningful to them, but they wanted a personal answer. Like, for instance, how is my business doing? What is my future going to be? And they would get dreams of such a kind as well. Finally, then we have the necromancies, or they call them the psychomandiums. Okay? Okay, you wouldn't, there were 4 in antiquity, spread out throughout the Greek world, 4, and it was very difficult to travel there because they were in very, very difficult spots. So you would need days of walking or horse riding to get to these places. So you wouldn't go there to talk with your grandmother who died 90 years old. I mean, what's the reason? But people, when they lost prematurely, abruptly, all of a sudden, they lost a person, a loved one, whatever, and there was unfinished business, that's where they would retreat. They would go all the way over there, and they would create a whole ceremony to communicate with their dead. It was very specific. There were 4 gates to the underworld, and these guys were going there to communicate with their loved ones, the ones that they had been lost. So, as you understand, now we have the incubations, okay, oniromancies and necromancies. And finally, another transcendent experience is the initiation procedure that took place during the mysteries. And there were 4 mysteries, different mysteries. There were the Dionysian mysteries, where actually they had Bacchic frenzy and orgies. We have the Orphic tradition, which was from the northern part of Greece and Thrace. And finally, the Eleusinian mysteries. Probably you call them Eleusinian. How do you read it out? I mean, Elysian? Elysian, you say it. Well, actually, it's Eleusinian in Greek, okay? So I will try to keep it as Greek as possible, if you don't mind. Now, I cannot talk to you about Dionysian or Orphic mysteries. That would take a semester, to say the least. So I will focus myself only on the Eleusinian mysteries, Elysian mysteries, becoming a mystic in antiquity. Now, that's a nice myth. Probably you do not know about this. This is the abduction of Persephone. Now, Persephone is the daughter of Demeter. Demeter, it means Demeter, Mitera, Mother Earth, okay? Mother Earth. So Demeter is the mother of Persephone. Now Persephone and Demeter are in a cave, and Persephone is weaving there and making a nice dress, and her mother is saying, I'm going out now, but please do not go out of this cave. No matter what you hear, do not go out of this cave. Cave, excuse me, not cage, cave. Stay here. Okay, okay, mother, I will stay here. So she stays there, but then she listens to beautiful choruses singing and girls dancing and having fun, and she gets out of the cave and she sees them having fun out there in the valley and the meadows, and it's so beautiful. So she goes down there and she has having fun with all these fairies and all these beauties, and she sees the narcissus flower. And she, oh my God, how nice, what a beautiful flower. And she goes like this and she takes the flower, and then the ground opens, and there is Hades, Hades Pluto, the king of darkness. He comes out and he grabs her, rapes her like this, and he puts her on his chariot and his wagon, and there he goes back to the earth. And the earth closes. Nowhere is Persephone now. Her mother comes back. She doesn't see her. She's lost. She's gone. So she's upset, and she says, what is happening? Why is this happening? Where is my daughter? Somebody tells her, ask the sun. He sees everything. She goes to the sun, and the sun says, well, yes, Zeus' brother abducted her, and she's down now in the underground. And Zeus knew everything about it. Is that true? He knew everything about it? She gets really upset. She's so upset. She's trying to look around to find her. She cannot find her. She's so upset. She's so desperate. She goes away from Olympus. She doesn't want to do anything with the gods. She transforms herself to an old lady, and she mourns, and she mourns, and she mourns, and she goes to the kingdom of Eleusis. Now, the kingdom of Eleusis is 22 miles to 22 kilometers from Athens, 14 miles from Athens. And the kingdom of Eleusis, there is a lady over there who sees her, and sees this lady, and she says, why are you so sad? What is happening to you? And she makes up a story. She doesn't tell the truth. Well, they said, we can hire you here, and we can put you to be our nanny for our prince. If you don't mind, we would like you to be his nanny. So there she is now. Her mother instinct comes again up, and she's nourishing this child. But every night she goes over the fire, and over the fire she's burning the child, because she wanted to burn all the weaknesses that humans have. And she wanted, by this burning, to make that son immortal. But when the real mother came in, oh, she was upset. And so she fasted her, and she took the child away, and then the goddess came out. She revealed her beauty and herself. She said, you stupid humans, you will never learn. You always stay ignorant. Because of your arrogance and lack of understanding, now you will build a temple right here where we stand, and from here on I will teach you how things are taking place in the underworld. So then she went up and she demanded that her daughter was to be given to her, or if she doesn't have her daughter given to her, then everything would die. And immediately a drought started, and a famine, and people started dying, and the land became dry, and nothing was coming out from Mother Earth. And so there was a tremendous famine, and the gods said, well, we have to settle this. Either we give her back her Persephone, or if we don't give it up, we die. We all die. And that's how they made a deal. 4 months a year, she would be down in the underworld. The other 8 months, she would be up in the upper world. And that's how they explain the seasoning, okay? When the land sleeps, actually the seed is there, and when it comes out, we have spring again, and everything starts from scratch. So that's the story of coming, but that's the official story, the outside story. The mystics would learn other things, as you will see in a moment. So, in the myth of the abduction, we have, first of all, the descent, that Persephone was gathering flowers, and she was abducted by Hades. The second phase is search, that her mother is searching high and low for her. The third part is the mourning. She's crying about her daughter and causing the terrible drought. And the final part is the ascent, with the main thing, the ascent of Persephone and the reunion with her mother, and the earth returns to its former verdure and prosperity. The first autumn. Okay? So now, I'm reading you, whatever you see in italics is pure text from that time, 2,500 years ago at least. Happy is he among men upon earth who has seen these mysteries, but he who is uninitiate and who has no part in them never has lot of like good things. Once he is dead, down in the darkness and gloom. Right blessed is he among men on earth whom they freely love. So, today you are going to learn Greek. By the time you get out of the door, you will be speaking fluent Greek. Miosis. This is the initiation in Greek. And how does it come? Miosis comes from the verb mio, which means I close my eyes. I close my eyes. By closing my eyes, I open actually other venues for information to come in. So thus, during initiation, the mystics shut their eyes, and by excluding input from the outside, they came into direct communion with the divine. This communion can only be experienced by ecstasy and transpersonal insight. The main goal of this is to recollect the forgotten knowledge that the psyche already has. The word mystery means an initiation act that is done secretly and in a dark and closed space. Okay? Did you ever think that that's what mystery means? Okay. So, what do initiation and incubation? Did you ask something? Excuse me? No. Okay. What do initiation and incubation states have in common? They both require a trance state that is the prerequisite for understanding transpersonal reality. Trance states, or altered states of consciousness, achieved through a combination of fasting, dancing, feasting, drama play, and participation in the initiating mysteries. Initiates and incubators had to face their deeper fears, that's very important, and come in contact with the shadow part of the soul. I stressed that last year as well. If you do not see your shadow, you are not able to go to the light. There is no shortcut to the light unless you work on your shadow. So what were the prerequisites then? Persons who wanted to experience initiation had to be dedicated and devoted to that end. They should be willing to fast from toxic foods and drinks for a long span before they visited the shrine. Abstinence from indecent behavior. They also started a cleansing process that should take place. The process was called katharmos. They were actually washing their body, but that was a symbolic cleansing, okay? And catharsis, the emotional catharsis that we use in psychology today, comes from that word. It was actually a ritual of cleansing, okay? So sacrifices of piglets would be done on the altar dedicated to the goddesses. Finally, excuse me, they would dispose of their clothing and wear a deer's placenta, which also symbolizes cleansing, because it's pure. A newborn deer, its placenta, is symbolizing something pure and natural. Now, I will have to make a small parenthesis here to explain to you some things. Now, this is a real picture of the tholos, which is in Epidavros. Epidavros is where the ancient theater of Epidavros is, one of the largest theaters in the world in that time. About 13,000 people go there. There was one bigger than this, about 50,000 people, but nothing is left of it. Now, this is in the Asclepion. Did I tell you a while ago the Asclepion is the temple where they had the incubation. Now, you can see, here you can see how it was built. This is the structure. What we see actually here is that part there. If you can see that part over there, that's what we see here. You get me? You can see the tiles here, okay? Now, we can see a better side thing now. This is a human here, standing, another human standing. You can see how big it is. Now, this is the ground floor, but this is the underfloor, okay? This is underground. You get my point? So now this is the floor of the Tholos. As you can see, as you can see here, there is a tile at the very center of the Tholos. This tile is movable. It comes out, goes in. It comes out and goes in. At the center of that, on the ground, under the ground, there is a little lamp, a very small, with oil, that has a tiny candle, let's say, light, okay? Now, as you can see, we have here, we have 26 columns of Doric style and 14 of Corinthian style. Now, what is the difference of the Doric and the Corinthian and the Ionic? You see the Doric? It's very simple. It's the simplest thing you can make. It's not a lot of art in it. This is the Ionic. It was mostly in the areas where Turkey is now, the Ionic style. And this is the Corinthian style. Very artistic, very, very rich in elegance, okay? The reason I'm showing all this is that in a while you will understand what was the purpose of the labyrinth that I just showed you. The round structure is symbolizing the cycle of birth and rebirth. So it is an initiation labyrinth. You get my point? The upper floor symbolizes the heavens, while the underground floor, the world of matter. The building is standing in two different kinds of alcoves. The outer part is made of 26 Doric rhythm columns and symbolizes the outer world of ignorance, darkness, and lack of knowledge, while the inner part is made of 14 Corinthian rhythm columns and symbolizes the cultivated, cultured, initiated person. So, what is symbolized through this course? The walking in darkness symbolizes the adventure of the psyche into the world of matter, in her effort to find the truth. The psyche is thrown into the world of matter because she has to find her truth. Darkness symbolizes the blindness with which we are doomed. We're blind. We're ignorant. We forget. We are forgetful. And when we are in the world of matter, we do not remember anything of the heavens unless we have a near-death experience, or we have a regression session. Otherwise, we don't remember. The small lamp at the center of the Tholos, as I told you, symbolizes the divine illumination or the discovery of the truth. So, what I'm saying here is that these people had to go into darkness through this labyrinth, okay, before they could enter to the upper part, the heavens part. So it was a practice that was done also for incubation techniques, because people had to face their shadow. part, which was very important. The ascent of the initiate from the underground to the upper floor symbolizes the rebirth of the soul into the world of heavens. What death is for us is rebirth of us to heavens. And when we come back to incarnate again, that's death for the soul. And Plato and Socrates and all these Socratic dialogues are actually constantly talking about this thing. The longing of the soul to go back to the light. The longing of the soul to remember what is forgotten. It's always evident, and they will be talking about that all the time in all the documents of that time. Now, who would participate in the Eleusinian mysteries? Anyone. Man, woman, child, even slaves, as long as they spoke fluently the Greek language and they were of Greek origin. So slaves could go there as well, children could go there as well, and women, because many people say women did not have the rights. Of course, they had the right to the most important ceremony that was in antiquity. They had the right to participate there. Anyone who had their hands clean, in other words, they had not committed a murder. Murderers were finito la musica, passato la fiesta, there was no way you would ever see them. Also, magicians and tricksters were forbidden to participate. There were magicians and tricksters at that time as well. They were ousted. They were never allowed to participate in the mysteries. What are the levels of initiation? Okay, Myste, we said that comes from Isis. These were the people who participated in the lesser mysteries which took place in Athens in late winter. After concluding the initiation, they were called Myste. The second level was Epopte, which means contemplates. Those were the ones who concluded with success the initiation process in the greater mysteries which took place in Eleusis. Then we have the priests and priestesses, those who contributed to the success of the mysteries assigned with various degrees and tasks. And finally, we have the hierophants. They were the priests who directed and orchestrated the ceremony. So they all came from one family tree. Now, as I said, the Eleusinian mysteries were the lesser, which lasted for 7 days, and the greater, which lasted for 9 days. The dramatic shows occultly signified the miseries of the soul while in subjection to the body. Reenactments of the myth of Persephone's abduction were played, and ritual cleansing and sacrifices took place as well. They then performed ritual cleansing at the river of Eleusis. While in the greater mysteries, they obscurely intimated by mystic and splendid visions the felicity of the soul, both here and hereafter, when purified from the defilements of a material nature and constantly elevated to the realities of spiritual vision. So the mystes, the initiates, were under the direction of a sponsor, who was the mystagogos, and who introduced the initiates to the mysteries or performed some of the preliminary rites. In other words, he would choose a person and he would ask him, would you like to become a mystis? If that person would like to do so, then he had to pay the mystagogos a significant amount of money to undergo this initiation process, which was done in an individual basis. And group initiation was forbidden by law. You see now another parenthesis here. I've heard a lot of people in hypnotherapy and regression therapy, they say they have 500 people in a room and they hypnotize them, let's go back to a former life and blah and blah. That cannot be done. It's absolutely unacceptable. Regressing a person back is so personal that it should never be allowed to be done in a mass or a group condition. It's a different thing to make a group visualization and send good energy to a person who is sick at the hospital. That is a totally different thing. But to have a group regression, when each and every one of us is a totally different being and reacts differently, is absolutely unacceptable. And that's why I emphasize this, because they knew that this process is only personal. Nobody else can be initiated in your place, or you cannot do initiation altogether. It's one by one. So one had to attend these mysteries only once, while he or she could participate in the greater ones as many times as they wished, as long as they had been initiated. The greater mysteries started on the 15th day of I cannot even say it, okay? Forget it. It's actually on the 30th of September. The 30th of September of nowadays is when they started the mysteries. Messengers left out to all cities to proclaim a truce. In other words, all the warfare, you know, all Greek cities were fighting with each other all the time. Well, at that moment they would stop. Any warfare would stop immediately, because the most important ceremony of the year was taking place. So they would stop war fight. A procession of priests with sacred objects would then walk from Eleusis to Athens to bring them to the temple of Eleusis, where people from all over Greece were gathered. Okay? Finally, the Archon Vasilevs would proclaim which persons would participate in the initiation. So it was a screening process. Not everybody was able to go there, and they kept documents of who is getting initiated, and they were specific things that people knew that they are the new initiates. The people who were rejected would never be able to participate in the future. Once you were rejected, that was it, finito. The second day now, Alla de Miste, to the sea initiates. This was the call of the Hierophant to the pilgrims to head to the sea. All the initiates would then walk to the sea along with a piglet and wash themselves and the piglet in a symbolic gesture. As the piglet is cleansed by the sea water, so shall the humans cleanse themselves from the psychic pollution of their deeds. The third day. This day was a day of mourning of the dead. The piglets would be sacrificed symbolically to show that if we are to have any contact with the divine, we first have to abandon our body. This day was also a day of confessions and the beginning of a self-healing process. At that time, we go to the fourth day, where during this day the pilgrims would devote the first fruits of their crops to God Iakchos. Whatever they took from their land, grapes and figs, and whatever, they would devote the first ones to God Iakchos. Iakchos symbolizes the spiritual dimension of the triangle. Demeter is the mother who tried to get Persephone to her real husband, Iakchos, in heavens, while she was chained in the depths of Hades by Pluto. The incarnated daughter is trapped in the world of matter, and she cannot get away with it. The fifth day, the long march through the sacred way, Hieraudos, was a day when the procession for the return of the holy objects took place. There were holy objects, and the priests and the people there were carrying it all night long. When the sun set, thousands of people would form a procession that would head towards Eleusis. Eleusis means the place of happy arrival, and is related to Elysium, the realm of the blessed. Elysion, Pedion, was the place where the gods will actually reside. So it comes from there, the place of happy arrival. So they would all kindle their torches, symbolizing Demeter's desperate search for her daughter. During this procession, all kinds of therapeutic miracles were taking place. At dawn, the next day, they would wear a yellow ribbon at the right hand and left foot. Finally, we have the 6th and 7th days. In these days, people meditated and prayed with a strong focus on their inner selves. The initiates were preparing themselves for what was to come. During dusk, they would have a bath with hot water and would wear clean white clothes. They would eat grapes, bread, and plenty of water. Then they would go into the Avaton and sleep as the incubators are sleeping at the healing temples of Asclepios. We move to the 8th day. During the 8th day, we have the Aporita. Those are the unrepeatables, things that you cannot disclose to anyone but only those who are already initiated. So the Legomena are commentaries by the Hierophant that accompanied the Dicnymena. The Dromena, things done, are dramatic reenactment of the Demeter Persephone myth, while the Dicnymena were things sewn, displaying of sacred objects in which the Hierophant played an essential role. Now, the Hierophant demanded complete and absolute secrecy from the initiates. The mysteries should never be disclosed to any profane person. His voice acquired a unique theatrical volume because of a special device which is called Ichion, and it actually echoed. They would have 7 layers of, it was a huge speakerlet, so to say, that was creating a vibrating sound that produced trance to the people. So in an eloquent, impressive, and imposing way, he would read out of the stone book specific statements that the initiates should hear. So he said, some of the things he said is the source of things. So he says that all this variety you see in front of you derives from one source. It is the primordial source, it is the essence. It is the primary cause of everything. Okay? And the voice was still echoing. Death brings eternal life. Death is a benefactor. Death is the love of God. Death is the road to life. Death is rebirth. So then, we know that people were drinking the kikeon, which was made of barley, meal, water, and tender mint. Thus, the initiates, after a fast of perhaps several days, drank the same potent sacrament as the final preparation for the mystic initiation. And we know, as no pharmacologist is saying, it is well known that visionary states can be induced by hunger alone. The content of the visions as experiments on visionary states induced by chemicals have shown is largely or perhaps entirely determined by expectations, spiritual preparation, initial psychic situation, and of course the surroundings. So actually, after all this fasting, after all this intoxication, detoxification, excuse me, you see my mind slipped off the tongue. Yeah, probably I want to be intoxicated now. Yes. After all this cleansing, they came into trance by drinking this kikeon. Now, at the entrance of the telesterion, there is this is a real, this was there, that's a column, that's a huge thing. And under it says, I am the light and the source of the souls. Persephone, under Persephone is written, I am death and I hold the truth of life. And Iacchos is saying, I am life, death, and rebirth. I am the crown of wings. So the Hierophant states in awe, for all of you that will now find yourselves in the kingdom of Hades, in order to understand what will happen next and to realize your current condition, you have to go through death. This is your ordeal. You have to learn to beat darkness for you to feel the light and joy. Then they would enter deep into the dark subterranean labyrinth. They would hear terrifying voices, cries, and terrible noises. The Hierophant states in awe. They would be dragged and pushed and pulled and thrown down to the floor. But their procedure is like Bacchic frenzy, like the leap of a man mad, possessed, the attainment of a goal without running the race, a passing beyond reason without the previous exercise of reasoning. For the sacred matter, contemplation, is not like attention belonging to knowledge or an outlet of mind, nor is it like one thing in one place and another in another. On the contrary, to compare small and greater, it is like Aristotle's view that men being initiated have not a lesson to learn, but an experience to undergo, and a condition into which they must be brought while they are becoming fit for revelation. Entering now into the secret dome, he is filled with horror and astonishment. He is seized with loneliness and total perplexity. He is unable to move a step forward and at a loss to find the entrance to the way that leads to where he aspires to, till the prophet or conductor lays open the anteroom of the temple. Within this hall, the mystics were made to experience the most blood-curdling sensations of horror. In most sacred mysteries, before the scene of the mystic visions, there is terror infused over the minds of the initiated. Thus, death and initiation closely correspond. Even the words teleftan and teliste correspond, and so do the things. At first there are wanderings and toilsome running about in circles and journeys through the dark over uncertain roads and cul-de-sac. Then just before the end, there are all kinds of terrors, with shivering, trembling, sweating, and utter amazement. Some of the initiates came face to face with mythical figures under torture, like Sisyphus, who was getting up to the mountain only for his rock to go down, like Ixion, who was tormented by the gods to carry the flame of chariots, and Procrustes and Laocondas fighting with his snakes and serpents. Under the almost total darkness, they would feel or discern terrible creatures, terrifying dragons, and Medusas, terrible creatures. The priest would then order them to proceed while he lit up the incense. They would face animals, terrifying creatures, throughout their journey into this world, the underworld, The mystics clearly understood that what they witnessed are the psyche's torments when it is trapped in the body garment in their current life. Or it could as well be their afterlife condition in case they lived as slaves of their own passions. The subterranean life is a life of purification and cleansing of former incarnation burdens. Those who underwent this probation could then move to the next plane. They could finally witness the pure essence of life. Thirsty the dead run towards the river of forgetfulness. It's called Lethe. Never drink from this river of Lethe, but instead drink from the fountain of mnemosine, the remembrance. That is the trick for you dead people. Never drink from this river of forgetfulness. And then, finally, the light comes. Release from the world of the dead and movement to heavens. After this, a strange and wonderful light meets the wanderer. He is admitted into clean and verdant meadows, where he discerns gentle voices and choric dances and the majesty of holy sounds and sacred visions. Here the now fully initiated is free and walks at liberty like a crowned and dedicated victim. Joining in the revelry, he is the companion of pure and holy men and looks down upon the uninitiated and unpurified crowd. Here below in the mud and fog, trembling itself down and crowded, unable to believe in the blessings that lie beyond. That the wedding and close union of the soul with the body is a thing really contrary to nature may clearly be seen from all this. So the harvester reaped, and Persephone is offering the bundle of wheat to Demeter. What does this mean? When an ear of wheat is reaped by the goddess of death, that meant that creation is the gift of gods to humans, while life is the gift of humans to gods. For among the many excellent and indeed divine institutions which your Athens has brought forth and contributed to human life, none, in my opinion, is better than those mysteries. For by their means we have been brought out of our barbarous and savage mode of life and educated and refined to a state of civilization. And as the rites are called initiations, so in the very truth we have learned from them the beginnings of life, and have gained the power not only to live happily, but also to die with a better hope. We learn to see at heavens. We learn to remember on earth. Blessed those will be who will undergo the initiating mysteries. They will be the ones to know the essence and the scope of life. There are holy things that are not communicated all at once. Eleusis always keeps something back to show those who come again. Birth is a great destruction, since it brings the living amongst the mortals. It was another time that you really lived, but when you were attracted by some urge, you were thrown into the abyss of the earth within the body's constraints. The now is a dream. Only the past and the future really exist. Learn how to remember, learn how to foresee. The founders of the mysteries would appear to have had a real meaning and were not talking nonsense when they intimated in a figure long ago that he who passes unsanctified and uninitiated into the world below will lie in a slough but that he who arrives there after initiation and purification will dwell with the gods. For many, as they say in the mysteries, are the thyrsus bearers, but few are the real mystics, meaning, as I interpret the words, the true philosophers. Socrates, 400 BC. Yeah? So, I hope got a bit of a sense of what was going there at that time. Any questions? Okay, let it work inside.
Yes. After going through the experience, do we know anything about what was the effect? In other words, I noticed you were saying that the cities were always warring, and apparently life was going on as usual. I am wondering the effect, whether they were able to be more effective in the world, or whether they simply sort of transcended it, knowing.
Well, I think.
How did they manage this?
Ellen, please, when you come back, I would appreciate if you brought a glass of water. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm really dry right now. This miracle that took place in the golden age of Greece would not have been around if these mysteries were not there. The beauty of their sculptures, of their paintings, of their temples is still today unsurpassed. The best scientists of the world are now studying the Parthenon, and they cannot see how these people build it in 30 years. There is no way for the modern technology to rebuild such structures. You should hear the best university professors of the world being there studying the Acropolis now. It has never fallen down of all these earthquakes. Greece is suffering from earthquakes very, very strong, and especially the Athens area. They were Acropolis was blown by a mistake when the Turks were inside, and Morosini, the Venetian, was fighting with them, and they had it, and it exploded. Otherwise, it would have never fallen down. The Japanese have came down there to study how this thing doesn't shake with the earthquakes, and they have figured out why. I mean, if these people, the great people, the philosophers, the poets, the theatrical writers, all started at that age, after the Eleusinian mysteries. It all started then. Of course, there was greed. There was the need for more land. Of course, there were warfares. But that was not the objective. The warfare was not the objective. The objective was a personal transformation through this initiation process. And when people realized that they're not here only for once, they're not going to die and they'll wait for the second coming of Christ, and all these things, and they knew that they will reincarnate and they will be given a second chance and a third chance and a fourth chance, if that is what is happened, then they were looser, they were wiser, they would enjoy life. That's why they had symposiums, that's why they had parties, that's why they had all these beautiful things. Then they enjoyed art. I mean, imagine what the human civilization would be without these guys over there. I mean, most of the principles started over there, whether we like it or not. The other states were monarchies. The Persians, for instance, the Egyptians were monarchies. What they left is, they didn't left the spirit. They didn't leave out, they only left behind monuments. It's not only the monuments that we are talking about now. So I think this is why these people excelled in the arts at that time, because they were going through this initiation technique. Of course, this is an approach. I've read all the ancient texts that there are available, what is left from that time, because actually you should know that it was a a penalty by death in case you disclosed this information that was taking place in the initiation mysteries, you would face the penalty of death. And actually 2 people were killed because they were spying on the mysteries, and then they went and said that what was happening, so they killed them immediately. The state decided that it should be killed. We know that these things were happening over there, okay? We know that these things were happening, and it's amazing what can, if you really get into the story. Of course, it's very difficult for me to translate a culture that is 2,500 years ago to make it digestible in an English language audience. So I think I did my best as far as that, as I could at least. And of course, only a person who will be regressed to an initiation mystery would tell us actually what was happened there, okay? So, what was next? Oh, yes, near-death experiences. Okay. Which is the first recorded near-death experience in history? In the recorded history, as we know it and as it is written now, today, the first ever recorded near-death experience is the myth of Ir. The myth of Ir is the last chapter of the Republic of Plato. There was a guy who was at war. Actually, there was a war, and the people lost at that war, and they went 12 days after the war was over to collect the dead bodies of their comrades. Okay? But when they arrived there, as you can imagine, after 12 days, most of the bodies had been decaying, except one. Ir, this guy was okay. His body had not started decaying, but it was dead. So they took it and they sent it to his land for burning. And when they set out the fire and they were ready to put him on the fire, he suddenly awoke. And when he awoke, he started explaining what happened when he was dead. So that's the first near-death experience we have. Okay? So he says that he had departed and his soul traveled with many other souls. Actually, yes, there was a combat field, so all the people who were dying at the same time, they actually were moving at the same time, and they arrived to a divine place where there were 2 openings in the earth. And while there were 2 openings to the sky. Okay? So, in the space between these 4 openings, there were judges who passed sentence. They ordered the just to go to the right, which was going up, okay, into the heavens for reward. But they sent the unjust to the left through one of the downward openings, to Tartarus for punishment. Do you get that? The ones go up, the heavens, the other ones go down to Tartarus. Ir also saw from the remaining 2 openings souls coming up out from the earth. They were coming up. And they were covered with dust, dirt. Okay, they were exhausted in a very bad situation. While others were descending from the sky and they were pure and shining. When they all reunited on the plain, they recounted their experiences and they shared what they saw. So the journey to the spindle of necessity, where the 3 fates are found. Lots are drawn and each person is allowed to pick the kind of life they will have in the future. He's describing actually boxes, okay? There are boxes, lots. You have to choose, and you see here it says, okay, you take wealth, oh, I'm gonna be rich. But when you take that and you open it, oh, you see death, you see you lose your son, your plane will fall, you see other things, okay? When you choose kingdom, you choose the kingdom, but then somebody will slay you, somebody will poison you, so stupid people would rush to stay back. What was their picking of life? So actually we are talking about a life plan here. Eh? So the philosopher best trained to know what is the happy life will be able to pick the happiest life, since it is not immediately apparent to all how to choose. After this, each soul was assigned a guardian spirit to help them through their life. We all be talking about guardian spirits and angels, huh? They passed under the throne of Lady Necessity. Then they traveled to the plane of oblivion, where the river of forgetfulness ran. And there each soul was required to drink some of the water, and as they drank, each soul forgot everything. So before they incarnate, before they come back to earth, they are expected to drink from the water of forgetfulness, so that they forget the in-between lives situation. But when you die, you are expected not to drink from this forgetfulness. You have to drink from the water of mnemosine, of remembrance. Okay? So even if you are thirsty, don't rush to drink from that water, the first water. Wait till you reach to the second fountain. That's the myth that is said in near-death experiences. Now, of course, here you are a group of near-death experiences. Most of you have had a near-death experience, or some of you. So me talking about near-death experiences is I'm probably the most improbable person to do that. Inadequate, actually. However, I mentioned that because I wanted to show you that in antiquity, all these things were far better known than they are probably today. Okay? I mean, the Republic is probably Plato's best work, and it was read at the time by a lot of his academy and his students. Now, why am I putting all these things together? Now, you see, the next section is regression therapy. The second section was near-death experiences. The first was initiating mysteries. The reason is that they all have things in common. Did you go to the ocean to get the...
Sorry, I got a call when I was...
Oh, thank you. Is that from forgetfulness or from...
yeah, right.
I don't want to forget now, okay? I have some more things to say. So cheers, everybody. Thank you very much. So as I was saying, there are a lot of things in common, because the people who have had a near-death experience, the people who almost had a near-death experience because they were initiated into understanding the dynamics that take place during death, they were actually having a course in the afterlife. So it was a blessing for each and every citizen to have at least once participated in the great Eleusinian mysteries. Why? Because
initiated to the 7th level.
Mhm.
What are they talking about?
Mhm.
I mean, that doesn't mean anything to me except the words I heard.
Yes, right now it doesn't mean anything to you because, of course, we do not know exactly what the difference was between the 3rd level and the 2nd level, and there were 3 levels. We do not know exactly what was done. What we are saying now is that we have very little parts of the puzzle, and we are putting the story together. Okay, so it's very difficult to know what exactly, because it's an experiential thing. Actually, I'm planning pretty soon to organize such a thing in terms of, a weekly workshop, so to say, where we will get into fast, we will do all these things, we will repeat step by step what these people do. We'll get underneath the labyrinth and we will see how it works. But I'm sure that these people were harsh people as well. They were fighters. I mean, if you see what they were
I
carrying.
didn't even understand what it meant. I mean, the whole thing, I just remember the words.
Yes, you remember the words, of course, but I cannot explain more. I think.
And telling me I had come from the future. How can you come from the future when you're here today? That made no sense to me either.
Empedocles, what he
That made
said.
sense to you?
Yes, that made. What he said, Empedocles, he's well before Socrates. He's a contemporary of Pythagoras. What he said is that what you live here right, in the here and now, is all an illusion. The real life is the past and the future. So learn how to remember and learn how to foresee.
So this is nothing.
This doesn't probably ring a bell for you, but it still is something very important. Okay? It is very important to have it in mind. Okay. So now let me turn to regression therapy. Well, the reason I'm turning to regression therapy is because I'm a regression therapist. And how are you doing? I have done thousands of sessions in which people have gone either to their past lives or to the life between lives stage. So, or both, of course. And when you do it once, you say probably, okay, probably she's playing out, it's an imagination. But when you see that happening over and over and over and over again, and you see that there are specific trends and specific lessons to be learned out of this, then you become convinced that this is a reality. Now, what is the difference between traditional psychotherapists and regression therapists? Well, the traditional psychotherapists, the soul is viewed as the expression of feelings and sentiment. It is not viewed as a separate entity, as a spirit. It is viewed as the collection of all these feelings and sentiments and temperament that we have, okay? Seldom is the use of altered states of consciousness. Traditional psychotherapists avoid to use trance states because they don't want really to get too deep into the problem. There is no consideration of the afterlife nor acceptance of the previous existence of the soul, by definition. They don't accept such a thing. That's why I call them, why do you call themselves psychotherapists? I mean, if you, Francis, would you go to a cardiologist who doesn't believe in a heart? Would you go to a dentist that doesn't believe in the existence of teeth?
No.
Why do you go to psychotherapists? You see? Yeah. I make my point. They are behaviorologists. They study human behavior. That's okay. Bravo. They are doing a good job there. But no, they are not psychotherapists. They should call themselves elsewhere. I don't want to say that, but okay. I have to be a good boy. Now, regression therapists, what are they? Well, for them, the psyche seems to be able to retain memories even after death. Altered states are used by definition. Acceptance of the experience as real, even though it does not seem to fit into the mainstream paradigm. So they accept the experience of their subject, even though that acceptance may not necessarily be the true. Okay, but they accept it. Now, what are the features of a past life recall according to Raymond Moody? And I'm using Raymond Moody because after his coining of the term of the near-death experience, he actually practiced and he did a lot of you know, he's a medical doctor. He's not only a philosopher, he's also a medical doctor. He's a psychiatrist, and he did a lot of regressions, past life regressions, with his patients. So he came up with a very good summary, which I think, even though he was not a traditional regression therapist, I think he really did make a good summary. So past life experiences are usually visual and in color, sometimes including odors and sounds. The images seem more real than dreams and do not feel as distorted. Past life regressions seem to have a life of their own. The scenes unfold on their own. Subjects sense that they are not making up, as in daydreams. And they may feel like watching a movie that is vaguely familiar. The imagery produces an uncanny feeling of familiarity. At times, the subject may return nostalgic, even homesick, because they are recalling a former life or a former love or a former death, and that makes them homesick and nostalgic. The subject strongly identifies with one character, despite profound differences in physical appearance, occupation, sex, race, or other life circumstances. A wide range of past life emotions may be experienced during a regression. Subjects may feel that they are in the body of the person with whom they identify, and at times may observe the scene from the outside. The experience often mirrors, and that is very important, present issues in the subject's life. The conflicts and dilemmas in the regression usually relate to actual circumstances and struggles in this lifetime. In other words, if you are having a difficult situation right now, okay, and for instance, you lost a loved one, your spouse, when you enter into regression, it is most probable that you will go over scenes that are mostly directly related to that. They will resonate, this story, so that this will solve your problem. It will make it easier for you. Now, the regression may be followed by genuine improvement in one's mental state. Repressed, pent up, or stuck emotions may be released by catharsis and produce a strong feeling of relief. Regressions may affect medical conditions. In some instances, they may be dramatic improvement or even spontaneous resolution of physical symptoms. We have had people that came out of cancer. I have a lady that was 39 years old, and the doctors gave her the papers and said, go home to die. And a doctor came in and said to me, Nassos, will you please give it a try? He didn't tell me though what was happening. When I went at home for a session, I see her husband opens the door and he's crying. I said, what is wrong? They had not told me that this was a terminal condition. Had I known that, I would not have gone, because I don't interfere with what the medical doctors are doing. Anyway, I had already said that I would go. I was there, and there she is, that lady, crying and shaking, and she's very skinny, very, very skinny. She doesn't, she's pale. She has no hair because of the chemotherapy. She has nothing. And at that time, said, my God, what am I doing here now? Why should I be here? I mean, that's not right. Anyway, I had to compose myself. So I asked her what is wrong. And I saw she was talking about her brother. I said, brother? And I was seeing a young boy there. He was killed by electricity. Then she said, my brother was killed, my cousin was killed, my other cousin died in the car accident. I said, wait a minute. A lot of deaths here, what is happening? So let's make a family tree. And I start following the family tree, death. That's the craziest thing I have ever seen. Well, I hypnotize her and I get her to the source of the problem. And what was the source of the problem, believe it or not?
Guilt.
What?
Guilt.
Not guilt. It was an old grandmama who was cursing her husband because he had gone with another woman, whatever, and he was cursing that every and each one of his descendants will be destroyed and going to death and find. And she was seeing this lady throwing things into the soup and cursing, you know. She saw the whole thing, like you see the magic movies. And, well, it seems that this was enough for her to retreat her cancer. She's still alive. She was to be dead a year ago. She's still alive. Cancer has not recovered totally, but she's alive. She was to die in that week I went. She's keeping out. She's went back to work. She's a nurse. And I don't know whether we cleared the things, but we did our best. I'm saying you can never imagine what will come up in a session, okay? And you can never imagine from where the source of your problem is. Now I remembered your source of your problem. Now I remembered your session. Now I remembered. Yes. So like in normal memory, regressions develop according to their relation to an actual life theme. They do not follow a historical timeline. You do not open the book and start from the beginning and go like this. It is as if, you know, the papers are thrown all together and you take one and it's totally different. And suppose...
Usually the one that has most effect on this lifetime.
Yes. Usually that, which reflects and mirrors the conditions that you are right now. If you were right now in love, you would see a similar situation of being in love in there and so on, okay? Past life regressions become easier every time. Next times, people will likely experience past life images more quickly and often more vivid. Finally, most past lives are mundane. Subjects usually experience lifetimes that are quite common for the time period to which they regress. So that's the book of Dr. Raymond Moody. That's an oldie, actually. It's at least 20 years old. So what are the benefits of regression therapy? It's understanding your eternal self, your purpose in this life, your destiny as a soul. Gaining clarity, why you choose the particular challenges that you are currently experiencing and what their meaning and purpose is, from the perspective of your psyche. Okay? Seeing your connection with the people who play a significant role in your life. I mean, I said that when we were having lunch a while ago. Whom do you think you fall in love with? I mean, there are so many beautiful women and so many handsome men. Why do we fall in love with this particular stupid guy or girl, whatever? Why? Because our soul recognizes him or her. Why do you pick among all these attractive people that one? Or two? Okay, 3. Why? Okay. Let's not overdo it, okay? But why do you choose those and not the others? Because you recognize them. Your soul knows about them. You know deeply inside that you have a feeling for them. So also your parents. We choose our parents. They don't choose us. When we come to life, we have a lot of testimonies by children, okay, who remember their past lives. When they are asked, what were you doing before you came here? They say, well, I hung around, I saw my mother, she was rather beautiful, and I was behind her, and I was following her, and I was following her, and then they made love with my father, and then I went in. Just simple as that. They follow us, they choose us. So we choose our parents, and there is a reason we choose our parents. Because we have to work matters with them. You see, I was torturing my mother all my life, and I still am. She's paying for something she has done years ago. I know she doesn't, okay? So, why do you think I don't have any children? Because I know what I have done. So this is the very important thing. All these people are actually important to us, and they are significant for us. They are because we have a deal we have to work out with them. Understanding why you choose your family and your body and how they serve you to achieve your current purpose. Okay? Actually, I said something of this. It is they serve you. Your parents will serve you. They will give you the ability to come to this world and fulfill what you are supposed to fulfill. Now, what else is the benefit? Seeing the bigger picture. You realize that the here and now is important, of course. We are here and now, we have to respect it, and we have to be as much as possible here and now. But we should not be afraid of death. We get the bigger picture when we know that there is a soul, that this is just, my body is just a shirt. I will take it out, put it in the laundry, finito. Another shirt the other time. My soul is changing. The Buddhists have the flame, and they turn on a candle, and then they turn another candle, and that's the symbol of the soul going from candle to candle. Okay? By the way, why I don't know, in your cemeteries, do you put candles in the cemeteries for your dead people? The Catholics do it. The Greeks also do it. They light candles. Why do they do so? I didn't mention that before. When I said that there is a candle at the to follow the light, so that the soul remembers to look for the light. That's the trick. We have to remember where the light is. The trick when you die, even suddenly, suppose you were struck by thunder or killed by a car accident or whatever, immediately look for the light. Look up and try to look for the light. Forget the unfinished business. I mean, I know there is unfinished business, of course, and we all, oh my God, what will happen now with my lecture, and what will happen with my kids, and what will happen with the food, it's going to burn. Forget it. You go up. Immediately, you turn to the light and you look up and you try to go away. Otherwise, you may run the risk of being stuck here. And I'm talking about stuck spirits. All of these are in my book. Or if you have not bought it, it's outside at the... I'm talking about stuck spirits, walk-ins, attachments, and all this. Now, creating more love, laughter, health, wealth in your everyday living. That is very important. To learn that you don't have to be the richest person in the world. Just learn to enjoy life. It's okay. Take it easy. Be healthy. And that will bring you wealth. That's the wealth. To be healthy and in tune. Not wealthy and in misery. And the most important thing, of course, is diminishing the fear of death. Learning how to be at peace with just being who you are. You know, each and every one of us is so different and so unique, and she has such a unique history, because it's not only the history of this life that we have lived through here, it is also the history of all these lives we have gone through, all these incarnations. So our soul bears a very big, how do you call this? Burden, or what? When people have some hunchback. Yeah, we have a hunchback. But as Confucius was saying, we can never look at our hunchback because we do that like that and we cannot see it. So now, what we learned of all this is that consciousness is not a product of biological processes. Some part of human consciousness seems to survive biological death. And sometimes it also seems to retain specific memories from former incarnations. It also seems to retain traumatic material that was not assimilated or released during the Bardo or life between life stage. Okay? It retains that material. The brain acts as an instrument of the mind, allowing it to unfold. In effect, it limits consciousness. Actually, consciousness exists regardless whether we exist or not. I mean, somewhere is my cell phone, okay? If I have it closed or not, it doesn't matter. The signal will come through either way. We are full of signals around us right now. That doesn't mean that. So you see, we run a fallacy right now that the brain is actually producing consciousness, which is the other way around. It is the consciousness that is using our brain, and it expresses itself. Remember your times when you had illuminations, when you had ideas coming in. Do you remember times in your life where you were in tune with everything and things would flash up to you and you would say, oh my God, what am I seeing? What is this? You were in tuned. Have you not felt that touch? That's the touch of the divine. The divine is touching you at the time, and it is giving you all this illumination, all this enlightenment. That's enlightenment. That's why Plato was insisting about the ideas. The ideas are the most important thing, because when you get that idea, then it's easy for you to make it a reality. But the important thing is to have access to that idea first. And he believed that everything exists as an idea beforehand. And somehow a person is picked and is given a dream. I was given a dream of the house of the future that would be solving the problem of humanity and energy solving. And it was a whole night dream. And there came a guy, I didn't see him, I was hearing his voice, and he took me all around the house and he showed me every petite detail of the house. And he told me also that it will win the best award of the best house ever built. Okay, I went to 10 architects, engineers. They all said, no, this is impossible, we don't want that. They threw away the plan. They couldn't do it because it was a different design. It was not based on squares. It was a round structure like a UFO, and the roof was collecting the electricity and the solar energy, and it was amazing. Anyway, and I say, why me? Why did you give it to me? Why didn't you go to an engineer? Well, so many architects around. I mean, they are also now out of work. I mean, the construction business is down. Why did you bring it to me? I don't know. I've even went to the university, the new students, you know, sophomores, juniors, seniors, and I said, guys, listen, throw the papers away, write down that. They wouldn't listen. So that's about the story. So I'm saying that ideas come, and whomever is ready to take care of them. So, we are finishing. Don't worry, I know you are tense. Most modern therapies are inefficient as they are done and are practiced. Therapists cannot lead sessions in an office, no matter how attractive that setting is. Therapy cannot limit sessions in a 50-minute span. Therapy by the clock, 50 minutes, no therapy. Sorry me, but therapists cannot disregard nature and treat people as separate beings that are not connected to the surrounding cosmos. You have to put people in context. I mean, they are part of a greater environment. You cannot isolate them and put them in a little box. They are part of interactions. If we want to be helpful and effective therapists, we also have to look back to what our ancestors did and learn some lessons from antiquity. We still have a lot to learn. Like Socrates says, I know one thing, but I know nothing. Thank you very much. I think we have time for questions now. Yeah, we can open the light now. So, yes, please.
Questions. First
Of
one
course.
is, will you wait for us to go get the books to sign them?
Oh, yes, of course.
Second question, more involved.
Are you, excuse me, are you afraid when you read radical things? Because my book is radical.
No, no.
Okay.
She's been there, done that as far as.
Okay, okay.
What I am pleased with, well, and I've got to show it, what I am pleased about it, that you're the first other Greek that I've met that. The second question is, in the Bardo stage, I've always, everything I've been shown, I never get the answer to this, and I'm hoping that maybe you've gotten. Why do you suppose that some things are cleared in the Bardo stage and others you carry back with you into the next life?
Why do you, I suppose that some
things are cleared from your soul in the Bardo stage and others you carry with you into the next incarnation.
Okay, it's because we are not ready to assimilate everything. Okay, I made a mistake. I cheated on my wife, and now that I'm at the Bardo stage, I realize that I did wrong. That doesn't necessarily mean that because I understood that I made a mistake, that this is also going to alleviate me of the problem. Understanding on its own is not enough. I either have to forgive myself, my wife has to forgive me as well, and if that forgiveness works at the spirit level, then I will not carry it on here. But if there is no remorse, there is no forgiveness, there is no cleansing, then I will bring it back here again. And I will carry it as a hunchback, as a burden. And that burden will get me down. And I will feel heavy. Most of the phobias we have, most of the obsessive compulsive behaviors we have, most of the psychopathological situations we do have, most of them, I'm not saying all of them, but a lot of them are carryovers actually from former incarnations. I will tell you a very interesting story. Probably I said it last year as well, but I think it's one of the best I've ever encountered. It's, and now it will be published in a book also called Regression in Relationship Issues. Not mine, it's one of my, I'm one of the writers there. Okay, this girl is, her mother is a friend of my partner in life in Greece, and she says, I want my daughter to go to have a session with Nasos for her eye. Her eye had a problem with her nerve, and it was doing this thing all the time. The nerve was not working. It was broken, let's say. She was born that way. I said, don't send her in. There's no way. This cannot be done. I cannot make a nerve work again. Forget it. It's done. Only a neurosurgeon would do that. Okay. No, I want my daughter to come. I want my daughter to come. She wouldn't take no for an answer. So I had to see her. She was 23 years old, a student at the university. Okay, everything was fine. She comes in, hypnotize her. I say, go to the source of the problem. Go where you have to be. And she finds herself in New York in the 60s. She's very sexily dressed, you know, and she's out at the pavement walking up and down. And she was beautiful, you know, walking up and down. And, well, it took me some time to realize that she was a hooker. And she was, you know, hooking clients, taking them up in a hotel room. They would do what they would do, and then she would go down again and again and again. Well, she became 40 years old, around 40, I don't remember exactly now, and she was so disappointed and frustrated from her life. She really had enough. She had a pimp. He was exploiting her as well. She was on drugs somehow. She drank alcohol at that time. So she opened the window, and she was on the 9th floor, and she jumped out. And that was it. She fell down though with her right eye. She fell like this, you know, bump down. Okay. Well, it was a shocking experience for her. She didn't go into the between lives situation at all, and then she woke up. She remembered the whole thing. She left out. After 15 days, her mother calls in. What did you do to my daughter? Oh my God, what did I do to her daughter? No, immediately the guilty part of me, what did I do? Well, you will not believe it. What did I do? Don't tell me this. The eye is not working. No, I'm not talking about the eye. Oh, okay, I said, what happened? Well, she says, well, my daughter, since she was very young, around the age of when she was able to wash herself and get to the shower and have a shower on her own, she would get in the shower 9 times a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. 9 to 10 times every day, compulsively, having the water running and washing herself. What was she washing herself from? So this material was not assimilated in the Bardo stage. She came here with a trauma. Why did she come here with a trauma? Because she committed suicide. So she didn't have the opportunity, was not given to her to learn the lessons from that life. Because she was miserable, I understand it. She jumped out, I understand it. But now what were the consequences? She brought all these things together in this life. Not only she had the problems of this life, but she was obsessively washing herself from her guilt 9 times a day. Now tell me, with what Freudian model and what other model can we explain this situation? The only explanation is reincarnation, nothing else.
I've got one that was unusual that I just saw. I don't know if anybody's, The Ghost Within My Child is a
Yeah, I
series.
watch that all the time.
Okay, well, there's that one child who was a baby that blew up in the Oklahoma City bombing. And she reincarnated into another child, and the whole time that she was growing up, she was like, I need to see my mom, I want to go back to see my mom. And she started drawing buildings and telling her mother, or her mother at the time, this is what happened to me, that bad man blew up the building and I died. And so she brought all this back with her, but she was a child, so what would she be learning and why would she come back so quickly when she didn't even have a chance to deal with, you know, her guilt or her trauma? You know what I'm saying? I mean, for her to come back that quickly, because the Oklahoma City, what was, 11, maybe 15 years ago?
No, many years ago. It was 85, I think.
85? Okay.
Or 83. 95? 95.
Okay, yeah, so, I
So
mean,
it's,
that quickly, and it was that she was a baby.
you know that babies are born before they are dead?
What?
We have negative births, which means that the life that the child is remembering had not concluded, the former life that the child remembers had not concluded yet.
Right.
Okay, we do have two cases like this. Ian Stevenson has published them. They're amazing, amazing stories. I have one negative, that I can tell you.
Are you saying the child's soulless, basically?
No.
Actually, before the dead had concluded, a part of the soul already
Okay.
had gone into the womb of the mama, and okay, you get the, and then when the death was finalized, the rest of the soul went there. So we can split. We can have actually, we can split in 5 pieces and 10 pieces and have a lot of experiences that we upload to our oversoul, so we collect and learn at the same time a lot of things. If you see that you're doing practicing that she had a life in the 50s, and again she had another life in the 50s in Africa, and then she had another life in the 50s in, it means that it was a split soul that was trying to collect information so that it would advance faster. It was a fast course, let's say. Okay? Fast track, yes.
I don't know how many bodies this individual have, with all these oversouls and things.
How many?
I'm following that. It's hard.
It is very hard, I know. It is hard for me that I'm doing this job. You can imagine how hard it is. Really hard. I tell you.
But you still want just one child, one person, one individual body.
I will tell you a story that probably will help you to understand that. Okay, about 4 or 5 years ago, there was a gentleman, he called me in, he was 38 years old at the time. He called me in and he said, do you know anyone in Athens who is doing your job? I cannot come to Corfu. I said, right now I'm in Athens. Oh, thank you, okay, can I see you? Okay, okay. We get together. You will not believe it, he told me, but I have to tell you my story. Okay, I say, what's your story? Well, this guy was going out, he had a bar in downtown Athens, right under the Acropolis. But he was taking a break and he would go to eat some lunch with another guy who was far older than him, but they were good friends with each other. But only that, they were lunch friends, let's say, only for lunch. One day, the oldest guy, wife, comes in to give him something, to her husband. And when he sees my client, she sees my client, she goes like this, and she faints. She's going down. They call the ambulance, they try to take her up, she wouldn't. Finally had to go back to work, she goes to the hospital. Well, after 2 months, she comes to him at his bar now, and she says, I'm very sorry for fainting the other time. She says, are you asking me, why? I mean, why are you apologize for fainting? Well, I will show you why I apologize. And she gets out her purse, and out of her purse, she shows him a photograph. He sees the photograph, and he sees himself in the photograph. He goes, that's me.
Did he faint?
He was going like this. He was ready to faint. That was a good question, yes. So, who is this? Well, that's my first husband. Your first husband. Okay. And what's wrong with your first husband? Well, he died of a heart attack. Wow. When was that? November something of 71. Now he fainted. You know why? He was born exactly the same date.
Oh my God.
And they were looking identical, like two twins.
In other words, two souls merged as one.
No, no, no. That was his soul. That was his soul that took over the embryo when it was in the mother's. Now, the first guy died after they made love, okay, with his wife. After they made love, he had a heart attack. But she became pregnant. And she gave birth to a girl. That girl, from the time she became an adult, 19, 20 years old, she was going only to that bar in Athens to have fun. Where? And then she asked him to hire her so that she would be working for him. So actually, his child followed the father and found him. Out of 5 million people, she went to work at that place.
She never saw pictures of her dad before?
Probably it was that. She reminded.
Yeah, because otherwise they
Yes,
would have been.
yeah, it was that. But you know, he was not 38 at the time when she was working there. She was 18, 20, whatever. You get the point? She was young. When he reached 38, the picture was matching exactly. You get the point?
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, we know nothing, as I said.
Why do you suppose the physical appearance were identical? Do you think that the soul had an effect on the cellular composition of the embryo?
Absolutely. There are some cases. Walter Semke has done a significant research on that subject. He's in San Francisco. Of course, in the beginning, he overdid it. He wrote a book called The Return of the Revolutionaries, and he was actually projecting people because they resemble to somebody of today, and he was saying, Obama is this today, and Bush is this, was then. That was not good. But what he found is that DNA theory really doesn't have any reality. I mean, we have seen so many cases of absolute resemblance of a person from a former life that the DNA theory goes bye-bye. The birthmarks and birth defects that Ian Stevenson and his team at the University of Virginia here at Charlottesville are studying for years now, 50 years now, are amazing stories. And there are people who look identical from incarnation to incarnation, even though their genes are totally different. So you can see people come out of blonde people coming a black guy, and you say, well, the milkman, did you go? Not necessarily. You know, it may be the spirit which is transforming the embryo. We have a syndrome, it's called the twin vanishing syndrome. Actually, one twin devours the other while they are in the womb. What happens to the soul, you think? It's still there. It's stuck. It's stuck either with the mother or with the person who survived. And I have run into this case 3 times. They devour their brother or sister, and many of their problems that they have in this life is because they ate their brother or sister in the womb. So,
Go to the light because they're no
well,
longer-
and you see, you have to find it first. You have to talk to it second. He has to accept his condition third, and fourth, you have to convince him or her that this is the best to his interest to go to the light.
People
But-
don't ordinarily don't just absolutely go to the light necessarily.
Oh, okay, what do you think happens when a drug addict, a heroin addict, heroin addict, a drug addict, a drug addict,
Oh, okay.
yes?
No, they probably don't know they're good.
What would happen to them if they die? They're still under the influence, okay? And what do they want to do? They are after the next dose. And where is the next dose? To the other guy who is Okay? So what they do is they possess that person and they possess again, and they actually make a vicious cycle. Do you get my point now? No? I think what our time is over, but I'm very happy to answer questions. But Lloyd, I see him, he's, oh, come on. Get out of here. Okay.
Excuse me, just a couple of things. Want to get your book signed? It's a good chance to do.
And exhale, getting settled in our chairs, knowing that this is an experience, a conscious, participatory experience. And we'll breathe in and breathe out. This mic sounds pretty loud, but we'll keep you awake. Okay, let's breathe in and we breathe out. And the reason we do a 7-terrace garden meditation is because it prepares us. It draws us into our center, away from all the daily activities, and it allows us to focus within ourselves, to completely bring our consciousness to this experience with each breath we take. And each garden, terrace, has a different change to it, a different experience. And as we move up the different terraces, we become aware of who we are. Breathe in and breathe out. Feeling relaxation. Breathe in. And on your next exhale, float away to a meadow, to a beautiful place that is calm and where you can walk in nature, where you feel the grass beneath your feet as you walk down the pathway. And there's beautiful colored flowers along the way.